to know your point of view.
Hi everyone, welcome to Evening TV. I'm Evening Ransom, and today I wanted to talk to you about letting go of mistakes, of letting go of the regret, forgiving yourself. Particularly tricky, especially if you have children and children that are damaged, children that you see that they've been through a lot, they've been abused, and maybe that's had some negative effects on, maybe they're codependent, maybe they're also narcissistic, maybe they have low self-esteem, maybe, there's all kinds of different things that could happen. I had a son that died from a drug overdose in 2016, right when I started this channel, and that was as a result of self-medicating from a lot of severe narcissistic abuse. Father who was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and a full extended family of narcissistic people who were not putting the children first. And so when when this brutal abandonment and divorce and everything happened, all the things happened, the smear campaign and everything, and it was really a devastating breakup with everything that would be bad for kids. Because of course there was no one else besides me putting the kids first. And I didn't understand what was going on until it was well over with, until I'd been completely thrown under the bus. So I did very little to protect myself or my kids because I just didn't know any better. I was raised to be a target. I was a perfect target. And so it just took me a long time and a lot of undeniable evidence to really wake up and see what was going on, because it was all I knew. By the time I was getting my life together, my son started falling apart, and he was doing really well when this happened. He was doing great. He was 20, his brother was 18 and just finished high school, and I thought, the worst is over, we've made it. They're free to move away, and they're free to start their own lives, and we made it. And it was just 3 weeks after that when he overdosed, he relapsed and he overdosed. And all the guilt and all the regrets and all the, how did I let this happen? Almost immediately after that happened, I started learning all these things about drug treatment that I didn't know. And here I thought I was doing everything right as far as his treatment went, his addiction treatment went, and I made mistakes there, things I would do differently if I had it to do over again. Basically, a lot of my life I would do differently if I had it to do over again. But the bottom line is, at the time, I did the very best I knew to do. I did everything I thought was right. It wasn't what was easiest for me by any means. I wasn't trying to take the easy way. I wasn't trying to do, my intentions were always really good. I deprived myself in order to take care of other people, mostly. And so it was quite devastating when I became very, very sick, and that's when all this unfolded, and I was abandoned, and divorce took place. And I didn't handle it very well either. So of course this was a terrible situation for my kids, and they were pretty young when it happened. They were about 7 and 5 when the whole marriage started breaking apart. So and it went on. There was conflict in their lives from then on, and I've been estranged from the family ever since then, and so I was always outside but not allowed to move away. So it was just a terrible situation to be raised in. So of course I immediately know why he was using, what drew him to being drawn to drugs, and ultimately what was responsible for him dying. So you can imagine that I know quite a bit about this kind of regret. As a mother, you can be really black and white about it, and I can say to myself, I failed because I didn't protect my children. Expect that the family, the father, your husband, your parents, your extended family, you expect all of them are going to be protecting the children. You don't expect you're going to have to protect your children from them. And you're going to have to protect yourself from them, and that all this is going to begin right when you're in the middle of a health crisis and are struggling even to be alive, which was the case for me. It was really an incredible story. I really had an impossible situation stacked up against me. Plus I was raised in a narcissistic family, and this was all I knew. So by the time I was getting by the time I was realizing what was going on, I was already divorced. It had already all happened. And, I was taken down. I was left destitute. I'd completely fallen apart. I had no one, no family, nothing. And I struggled my way up um, on my own. And by the time I had done that, I was doing really well. By the time I had done that, then my son started falling apart. My son started showing the wear and tear of the things that had happened to him. Stories are on my channel of the things that happened. But, just some incredible things happened that, should never have happened to a child. I know that you all probably have your own versions of this same story, and so the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I think that if I can be an example of someone who forgave herself for something of this magnitude, maybe you can find it in your heart to forgive yourself for whatever it was that somehow narcissistic abuse negatively impacted your children or yourself. What we need to do is we need to take responsibility for our piece of it, because that's the empowering thing to do, and it also helps us to understand what happened. Then tell the story in an accurate way. Tell it, look at all that you overcame. Look at all that you managed to survive. Look at what maybe now your biggest mistakes. A huge source of wisdom and compassion, and you certainly know more now. I know that I am completely changed. I'm completely a different person than I was 20 years ago or 10 years ago even. When your life turned out so differently than you expected because of choices that you made, voluntarily. You made these choices. You picked this person. But to your finances, to your health, to your relationships, to your family, to whatever, to your reputation, whatever it was, when my life ended up not playing out the way that society tells you it's supposed to, it took me a lot to see it, because I was going to have to, when I did see it, I was going to have to go back and see my parents, see my brother, see my own childhood. It was going to be an undoing of everything that I'd known. And so it was not a little undertaking to do that. And it was a lot to do, and I didn't do it perfectly, and I didn't do it quickly. We're human beings. We make mistakes. And sometimes the mistakes are big and the consequences are big. We don't forgive ourselves based on the magnitude of the mistake. You didn't set out to harm yourself, to harm your kids. You didn't set out to do that. You believed what they were saying to you. You went in with good intentions. You brought children into the world planning on giving them a wonderful life. And you didn't expect to be raising them with someone who wouldn't be able to put them first and doesn't have empathy and would willfully go ahead and abuse you and abuse them and lie about you and not protect you and not be what you think of a mother or a father or a husband or a wife or a partner being. It just turned out not to be at all what you expected, what you believed, and you weren't looking for it because it wasn't your truth. You weren't that kind of a person, so you didn't see it coming. And really, who could see it coming? The person that you loved and that loved you is not going to want you to be beating yourself over the head with this for the rest of your life. Don't let your past hold your future hostage, which is exactly what would happen. Instead, if you can forgive yourself and change things and then use this wisdom and this compassion to do something, which is what I'm trying to do. I started the channel, but aside from that, I'm trying to think about what I've learned here that I can take from my son, from my whole experience with my son, and do something to help someone else. So those are all kinds of ideas that I'm tossing around and coming up with some ideas about what I can do. It's inspiration for all kinds of art. It's inspiration for foundations people start, for charities, for volunteer work people do. It can be the catalyst to a whole bunch of amazing things. And so that's really the way to make up for it. Sitting in regret and wishing that you've done it differently. You can't do it again. You can't do it again. It cannot be undone. You can't redo the past. All you can do is take that wisdom and take it into the future and do things differently and make it mean something. That is what I'm trying to do, and I hope that that's what you'll do too.